The silence in the abandoned mall was eerie, broken only by the wind whistling through a crack in the dusty window. The once bustling center of commerce now stood as a ghostly reminder of a forgotten past. A lone figure stood outside, gazing at the reflection of the overcast sky in the darkened glass. The clouds seemed to mirror the desolation within, casting a somber shadow over the scene.
Ethan had heard the rumors of the mall being haunted, and he was determined to see for himself. Stories of strange noises and ghostly apparitions had piqued his curiosity, driving him to uncover the truth.
He took a deep breath and pushed open the heavy glass doors, their rusty hinges groaning in protest. The sound echoed through the empty halls, amplifying the sense of abandonment. The air inside was thick with dust and the smell of decay. It was as if time had stood still, preserving the remnants of a once vibrant place. A chill ran down his spine, despite the summer heat outside. The temperature seemed to drop the further he ventured in, adding to the unsettling atmosphere. It felt colder inside, heavy. The weight of the silence pressed down on him, making each step feel like a journey into the unknown. Ethan ventured further into the mall, his footsteps echoing through the desolate corridors. The sound bounced off the walls, creating an eerie symphony of solitude. He rounded a corner and stopped short. His breath caught in his throat as he took in the sight before him.
In the center of the walkway lay a shattered mannequin, its once perfect face now a mask of cracked porcelain. The sight was both tragic and haunting, a silent witness to the mall's decline. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. The hairs on the back of his neck stood on end as he scanned the area for any signs of life. He looked around, but there was no one in sight. The emptiness was overwhelming, amplifying his sense of isolation.
Ethan cautiously approached the shattered mannequin, its vacant eyes staring up at him. The lifeless gaze seemed to follow his every move, adding to the eerie atmosphere. He bent down to pick up a severed hand, its plastic fingers cold and lifeless. The touch sent a shiver through him, as if the mannequin's despair had transferred to him. As he did, he heard a faint whisper. The sound was barely audible, yet it sent a jolt of fear through his body.
"Get out, while you still can!" The words seemed to come from nowhere, yet they resonated with a sense of urgency.
Ethan spun around, his heart pounding in his chest, but there was no one there. The mall was as empty as it had been moments before. He was alone. Or was he? The question lingered in his mind, adding to the growing sense of dread. The mall seemed to hold its breath, waiting for his next move. Ethan's initial fear gave way to curiosity. The eerie silence of the mall, once bustling with life, now felt like a canvas waiting to be explored. He couldn't explain the whisper, but he refused to be scared off. The whispers seemed to come from the shadows, as if the walls themselves were trying to communicate with him. He convinced himself it was just the wind, playing tricks on his nerves. The wind howled through the empty corridors, creating an almost musical symphony that echoed through the desolate space.
"It's just an old mall," he muttered to himself, trying to sound brave. His voice sounded small and insignificant against the vast emptiness surrounding him.
He continued exploring, his footsteps the only sound breaking the heavy silence. Each step seemed to reverberate, amplifying the loneliness of the place. He passed by darkened storefronts, their once enticing displays now faded and covered in dust. The stores, once vibrant and full of life, now stood as silent witnesses to a bygone era. Clothes hung limply on mannequins, frozen in time. The mannequins, with their blank stares, seemed to watch him as he moved, adding to the eerie atmosphere. Ethan paused, his gaze drawn to a particular storefront. Something about it felt different, almost as if it held a story waiting to be uncovered. It was a toy store, its colourful sign a stark contrast to the dull greys of the abandoned mall. The bright colours seemed out of place, a remnant of joy in a sea of desolation.
He stepped inside, the musty smell of old toys filling his nostrils. The air was thick with dust, and each breath felt like inhaling the past. The shelves were still stocked with forgotten treasures, teddy bears, board games, and action figures. Each item seemed to hold a memory, a fragment of a child's joy. Ethan picked up a dusty teddy bear, its fur matted and torn. The bear felt heavy in his hands, as if it carried the weight of countless forgotten hugs. He could almost imagine a child laughing, clutching this bear tightly. The sound of laughter echoed in his mind, a ghostly reminder of happier times. He placed the bear back on the shelf, a strange sadness washing over him. It was as if he was saying goodbye to a piece of his own childhood. This mall was someone's happy memory once, he thought to himself. The walls seemed to whisper stories of the past, of families and friends who once roamed these halls. He wondered about the people who had shopped here, the laughter and conversations that had once filled these empty spaces. The mall, now a ghost of its former self, held on to these memories, preserving them in its silence.
A loud crash echoed from the other end of the mall, jolting Ethan back to the present. His heart raced as he gripped the flashlight tighter.
"Hello?" he called out, his voice echoing through the desolate space.
There was no answer, only the sound of his own breathing. He cautiously made his way towards the source of the noise, his senses on high alert. The air grew colder, sending shivers down his spine. As he rounded the corner, he saw it. A display case lying shattered on the floor, shards of glass glinting under the dim light. But what sent a chill down Ethan's spine was the single shoe lying in the middle of the debris. It was a child's shoe, a small red sneaker, seemingly untouched by the decay surrounding it.
He picked it up, its small size making the emptiness of the mall feel even more profound. "Whose shoe is this?" he whispered, his voice trembling slightly.
He knew he was alone, and yet the presence of the shoe filled him with unease. It was as if the mall itself was trying to tell him something, to warn him. Section 4. The Weight of Whispers. Suddenly, Ethan heard it again.
This time it wasn't a whisper, but a cacophony of voices, murmuring, laughing, and shouting all around me.
He spun around, trying to pinpoint the source, but the voices seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. The air grew heavy, filled with the weight of unseen presences.
I could almost feel their eyes on me, watching my every move.
Panic welled up inside him, threatening to overwhelm his senses. He stumbled back, bumping into something solid. He turned and found himself face to face with a wall covered in faded photographs.
They were pictures of families, couples, and friends, all smiling and laughing, frozen in a time long gone.
Ethan reached out, his fingers tracing the outline of a young girl in one of the photos. She wore a bright red dress and held a matching red balloon, her smile wide and innocent. It was the same shade of red as the shoe. The whispering grew louder, the voices swirling around him, seeming to emanate from the photographs themselves.
They were trying to tell me something, I could feel it. But what?
Section 5. A Familiar Face. Ethan tore his gaze from the photographs, his heart pounding in his chest. The images were haunting, each one more unsettling than the last. They seemed to tell a story he wasn't sure he wanted to know. He had to get out, escape the suffocating presence that clung to him like a shroud. The air felt thick, almost tangible, pressing down on him with an invisible weight. Every shadow seemed to move, every sound amplified in the eerie silence.
I turned to leave but froze in my tracks. Something was pulling me back, a force I couldn't explain. It was as if the corridor itself was alive, whispering secrets I was meant to uncover.
Standing at the end of the corridor, shrouded in shadows, was a figure. The darkness seemed to cling to her, making her almost a part of it. She was both there and not there, a ghostly presence that sent chills down his spine. It was a woman, her long, dark hair cascading down her back. The strands moved slightly, as if touched by an unseen breeze. She was eerily still, like a statue carved from the very shadows that surrounded her. She wore a flowing white dress that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. The fabric caught the faintest glimmers, creating an almost ethereal glow around her. It was a stark contrast to the darkness, making her seem otherworldly. Her back was to him, but Ethan could sense her sadness, the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. It was a palpable thing, hanging in the air like a heavy mist. He felt an inexplicable urge to comfort her, to understand her sorrow.
I took a hesitant step forward. "Hello?" My voice echoed in the empty space, sounding small and insignificant. The silence that followed was deafening, amplifying my own fear. I called out, my voice barely a whisper. It felt wrong to speak loudly, as if I might shatter the fragile stillness that enveloped us. The words seemed to hang in the air, unanswered and unacknowledged.
The woman didn't turn, didn't acknowledge his presence in any way. She remained as she was, a silent sentinel in the darkness. Her stillness was unnerving, more so than any sudden movement could have been. She simply stood there, her stillness more unsettling than any sudden movement. It was as if time itself had stopped, trapping them both in this moment of eerie quiet.
I took another step and then another, drawn to her like a moth to a flame. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the air itself was trying to hold me back. But I couldn't stop. Something compelled me to move closer. As I got closer, I noticed something familiar about her. It was a nagging feeling, a sense of déjà vu that I couldn't shake. The way she stood, the way her hair fell, it all seemed so eerily familiar. The way she held her head, the curve of her shoulders, it reminded me of someone, but I couldn't quite place it. It was like a memory just out of reach, teasing the edges of my mind.
He was just a few feet away now, close enough to reach out and touch her. His hand trembled as he extended it, the air between them charged with an electric tension.
"Ma'am?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. "Are you all right?" The words felt inadequate, but they were all I could manage. I needed to know, needed to understand who she was and why she was here.
The woman slowly turned and Ethan gasped. The movement was almost imperceptible at first, a slight shift that sent ripples through the air. When she finally faced him, it was like looking into a mirror of sorrow. It was the woman from the photograph, the one with the red balloon, her face etched with a sorrowful smile. The recognition hit him like a tidal wave, bringing with it a flood of emotions he wasn't prepared for. Her eyes, filled with a deep, unspoken pain, seemed to reach into his very soul.